Preheating is required anytime the temperature maintained a level of 20 degrees Fahrenheit or less. So if you came out here in the morning and it was 35 or 40 like it is now, but it's set in the aircraft set overnight, and when it was 15, you still need to preheat. The preheating normally takes, the manufacturer recommends 15 minutes, says that's adequate. We normally run about 20 or 25, find it works a little bit better. When you set the heater up, the first thing you want to do is make sure you've got scene safety. We want to make sure there are no oil spills or gas spills where fuel may have leaked overnight, so everything is nice and dry here. Okay, our basic components of the heater is the heater unit itself, the heater hose, the extension cord. As an alternate, this is an alternate source. You can run off the battery of your car if you don't want to drag the generator, and of course the generator itself. Starting with the generator, there are separate instructions for how to operate the generator. Basically, you keep the cap, the vented cap, closed while it's inside the locker. Bring it in line the two yellow marks here, and this opens the cap. On the side is the choke, the on-off switch, the crank cord. Down here is a standard receptacle, 15 amp receptacle with the on-off switch. We'll leave that off. The heater itself does not have an on-off switch. You have to rely on the generator to turn on the fan. It has a short cord, so we have to use the extension with it. And then the propane tank hose comes in with the gauge, and underneath here is setting the regulator. We normally set it down all the way off while it's in storage. Heater also has two controls. One, this button has to be pushed down. When you start it, this allows gas to flow from the tank into the burner, and this button is for actually starting or igniting the burner. The tank, at all times, we keep this turned off except when we're using it. Reason being is the only other valve is here. I really don't want any pressure in this hose, because if this hose were to crack, that cabinet could fill up with propane, and that would be bad. So at all times, always keep this valve off except when you're actually using the heater. That's safety. This heater is also equipped with emergency turn-off. As we set this up, we'll go through it. At all times, you must always have the fan running whenever the burner is running. Never start the burner or run it without the fan going. Usually start the fan first, then ignite the burner, shut the gas off, and then run the fan for about a minute or so afterwards to cool the system off before you turn the fan off. Another thing to think about is the fan makes some noise, but there's no indication of it shutting off. So if for some reason the generator tripped or that unit tripped, you wouldn't know the fan was off unless you were nearby, and it takes us a while to turn the gas off. Trouble is, we've learned from experience that it takes a long enough time that the hose will actually get damaged from the heat. Hose costs $75 to replace, so we're pretty sensitive on protecting the hose. Set up the preheater. We'll start with the hose. We go to the right side of the aircraft into the cowl flaps. You'll notice many of these heaters are around the field. Many planes we can actually go through the front, but in the 182 we cannot do that because of the oil cooler and prop governor. So we're going through the cowl flaps. On the right side is where the actuator rod for the cowl flaps is, and this hose is equipped with a hook on the side, so we can insert this into the cowl flap and connect the hook. None of our aircraft are exactly alike, but they all have the actuator over here, and this one's a little more difficult than most to hook because the actuator's in the center rather than off to the side as the other aircraft are. Once this is in here, you can bring the cowl flaps closed a little bit, but do not bring them in tight, as that will damage the hose. About 1/3 of the way will work. Coming down straight. just to where you feel the cowl flap starting to bind the hose. And don't force it. Just enough to snug it to where you'll keep the air, the warm air going through the cowling. Okay, we try to direct the heater a little ways from the tire and any of the obstacles here, and then we always put the hose on before we ignite it. The flame, as you will see, the flame will come out about this far, so we always keep this fixture on the heater before we ignite it. This fixture protects the hose from getting burned, and also it's a real easy way to disconnect the hose if need be. But you always want to keep an eye on it and make sure it doesn't come loose while you're operating. On the generator, we set it a little ways away from the aircraft and point the exhaust on this wing away. Not that it's a hazard, but it's best not to get the fumes back in the airplane. It can be unpleasant, so we try to keep it pointed away. First thing we do is bring up the electrics. We'll start the generator. If you want to come around on this side. The controls on the generator, we've got an on-off switch for the fuel, so you want to do the switch first, as I earlier talked about, turning the vent on the fuel cap, the yellow line's heading up. Bring engine on, and you can leave it in the economy mode for this operation. If the motor's cold, you want to choke it. It was recently started, so we won't need to choke it. And make sure the switch down here on the electrical receptacle is in the off position. It usually starts very easy. We're already cabled up, plugged up, so when we turn this on, you'll hear the generator load a little bit, and that tells you the fan is running. Again, the only way you know the fan is running, though, is to be next to it where you can hear it. If you can hear it right now, it'll get a little droned out as we start the burner. Okay, the fan's running. Verify we've got heat coming out. Go ahead and look at the hose. Turn on the propane tank. Open it all the way. And on this bowl, we pull this down and you'll see the gauge register. And if it doesn't, you just turn the regulator all the way up. Hold it down. You'll need to hold it a little while normally because there might be air in the line and you need to purge the air and get propane. And here's the starter, and you can hear the burner. You need to hold this down for about 5 seconds after the burner lights because this sensor needs to feel the heat. And then we can turn it loose and you'll hear it keep going. After the heater's been running a few minutes, it's a good idea to put your hand in and feel the heat. You feel the heat inside the cowling, or you can open the oil and feel the heat coming up through here. On a cold day, it's pretty noticeable. Right now, it's not real noticeable, but we are getting heat. Inside the locker is a checklist, which have all these steps. We have not shown the checklist as we walk through, but all steps, including safety procedures, are listed inside here. The generator has a separate set of instructions. It's pretty straightforward. One thing though you want to do is you do want to check the fuel on the generator, and the most cardinal rule we've got is never, never, never go off and leave this unattended. You must stay nearby and make sure the fan is running at all times. If you sit in your car, bring your car up close and put the window down occasionally and listen to, make sure the fan is running. The generator, it's important that it doesn't run out of fuel because that will kill the fan. So you want to make sure the fuel level is acceptable. You can drain a little out of the sumps of the aircraft and pour it into the generator. Another thing is never run the generator inside the cabinet. It has to be out of the cabinet all the time. So you can be near the cabinet, but not inside the cabinet at all. Shutdown procedures. To shut down, underneath is the regulator valve, and by opening the regulator valve all the way up, this will bring the gas pressure down to nothing and will shut the burner off. You can see this is still just a little bit warm. We follow through immediately by closing the propane tank valve and making sure it's nice and snug. Don't force it, to just snug it. Okay, we'll let the burner now, the fan still run through the burner until we feel this is cool. And it's cool to the touch now, so we're capable with unhooking. Again, verify that it's cool, that nothing's happening here. At that point, we can now shut off the generator. To do that, we'll throw the switch over here and turn the engine switch to off. And turn the fuel off and turn the vent off. The generator is now secured, we can unplug. Again, one thing to make sure of is that there is no fuel around before you start. You can see there's a stain here left over from many years. This is from people draining the cowl sump. You want to make sure this is dry and there's no fuel in here before you ever start engine up. At this point, we can now open the cowl flaps back up. And we'll unhook the hose. Use caution when you do the hose. It can hang up inside and it's very easy to tear this hose. So be very careful and easy with it when you unhook it and pull it out. Then the hose simply coils and goes back into the locker. The fueling the generator, we normally just keep it topped off by using what we drain out of the sumps of the airplane. Rather than putting them back in the airplane, we put them in the generator. A small filter cartridge resides inside all times. About the only way you see it's full is to look in and see the fuel level. It's down right now, so we'll put some more fuel in it. You would just simply drain a little bit out of fuel out of the aircraft and then pour it very gently in here. Now it spills very easy when you do that, so try to do it after you run the generator. Hopefully the guy before you left it full or close to full. The generator will run hours on a tank and you're only going to run it for about 30 minutes, so it doesn't need to be full all the way to the top. This is an inverter. We'll plug to the 12-volt terminals on your car battery. You have to lift the hood and just turn it on with a power switch, and you have a receptacle you can plug in here. Be careful with this guy though, because most of the time you're going to want to leave your car running, and there's belts and fans and stuff underneath. You don't want this falling off and going down there, so make sure this is well secure before you start your car up. And then check it occasionally. Also, if this thing trips, and it has happened before, you won't know it. The only way you'll know it is the fan will cut off. So you want to be really extra careful to listen to the fan while you're using this device. Okay, now you see we have restowed all the equipment. One last time, always check that propane tank, make sure it's turned off. Checklist resides here. If there's anything the checklist is lacking, you have any questions, call myself or Jim Jenkins at any time, and one of us is usually available on the phone and we can answer your questions. Thank you and fly safe.